Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of On the Clock with Personal Living Alert. I'm David, and I'm with Personal Living Alert, and today we have the pleasure of chatting with Jennifer Beach. Jennifer is a care manager, and she owns a company, Advocate for Elders. And Jennifer is located in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. And we're going to chat today, but first I'd like to say, hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. This is kind of an adventure and fun, a little different for the day.
No doubt about that. You know, a lot of times we start these just by chatting and getting to know one another. What's your background? How did you get into the senior market?
Sure. So I came in it both personally from my family experience. My father had multiple sclerosis when I was growing up, so there we were already, learning caregiving, trying to figure things out. And from that experience, I went into social work. I went to the Ohio State University, go Buckeyes, and I got my degree in license in social work. And for about, I would say, 13, 14 years, I worked for an agency that served older adults with developmental disabilities. And there was a lot of group home living going on at that time. So that's really where I learned the importance of advocacy for this, such vulnerable population to get their needs met, and to be given quality service. Really required someone to be there with them and someone to, be that voice to make sure questions were asked and, good services were being done. So long story short, I did that for, a little over a decade. And then my mom developed Parkinson's disease. So again, kind of back in the family, helping out that way. And it was along those lines, when speaking to an elder law attorney, I heard about geriatric care management. I did not even know such a thing existed. And she really said, wow, here you are, a social worker. You're out there doing this for your parents, my mom at the time, because you live close enough that you can do that. But the most important thing is you actually know the system. I mean, you go in there and you make sure that she's, getting her what she needs, her needs are met. You're asking the questions, you're anticipating what comes next. She said, just think about if you weren't here, this was long distance and you were trying to do that, what would you do? She said, you would hire a geriatric care manager. So I learned about this, awesome, unique and ever-growing field. And that was about 11 years ago. So I got all my ducks in order. I had gone back to school and got a master's degree and got my license and certification and joined ALCA, the association, Aging Life Care Association. And that's history. It went on from there. And here I am, going into my 11th year later.
Wow, congratulations. I've done a lot of these, and I would tell you probably about 80% of the people I've spoken to are in the senior market, whether it's as a care manager or what we do on the periphery by doing medical alerts, is because you have somebody in your family that had something and you saw a need and jumped right in. Very few people I've talked to actually went to school without any family history just to get into what we're doing today. I think that's always, I found it to be very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's, definitely, this job is not for everybody. As we know, caregiving and nursing, you really have to have that special sort of draw inside you that, to want to do that. And you spot those great caregivers, when you're out in a facility, you just see this, when they really have that passion, that care, that extra touch, or nurses, yay, thank you to all of our workers out there at this time, who are going above and beyond. Right. But I think people do come with it, with the passion, and the personal makes it even stronger.
And I thought it was interesting because I thought I was like one of the few people who had no idea that there's such a thing as a care manager. I mean, when I got into this business about 4 years ago, I did it because we had needs on our family side. but I never knew there was a care manager. And when I spoke to Liz Barlow, the president of ALCA, I addressed that with her. In fact, that, so it's refreshing that I'm just not an island, that there are a lot of other people out there who never heard of it, but it's a great tool to have at your disposal.
Yes. So many people, myself included. I mean, I did not know at the time. And I think it's growing because people are realizing the importance of you have to be actively involved in your healthcare. You have to be, and if you can't be, and often because if you have an illness or multiple things going on, to have somebody else, to be there with you. I think on the coasts and in Florida, people are, I think, more familiar with utilizing these kinds of services. I think it's just trickling more and more into the Midwest, where people are sort of, just getting familiar with this idea that you can, there is a service out there that can come in and help you walk through these things, to save you time and money and, peace of mind while you're trying to manage your own family, taking care of your parents. It's a lot.
Well, what, I know we have a couple of the topics, but I think this is a little more interesting, at least from my standpoint. As a care professional, what do you guys do on a regular basis? Like, what is how do you service your clients and help them?
So, of course, every family is different. Every situation is different. So there is sort of no one set way that I go about things. I meet a family and typically it's an adult child that's calling me to talk about issues, concerns, that they're dealing with their parent or spouse, or loved one. And what we want to do is try to identify, the issues that they're dealing with. And then we're going to come up with strategies to solve those issues. I'm a solo practitioner, so I'm a little bit different service. As you know, as you've been talking to Liz and other aging life care professionals, we all, have the same core standards of practice standards and, of course, our ethics, code of ethics. But we all kind of come about things a little bit differently, depending upon where we live, our communities, the families that we work with. So we're going to identify what that family needs, what they think they need, and all the other things that may be attached to it. Sometimes families just come in and they have one problem, and they want to address that one problem. But as we begin to talk about things and sort of peel back the layers, we realize it's more than one problem. And we don't want to just put a Band-Aid on today's problem because it's not going to go away.
Right.
When someone has dementia and the issue is just, we don't want them driving. It's not just about let's solve the driving issue. It's peeling back the layers in how can we serve this person? We don't want to just take them away from driving, but what can we do to help them with their transportation needs? How do we go about bringing this up, because it's usually a very difficult subject, and area without a doubt. What are we going to do when things start to change even more? Let's have a plan B, plan A. Let's be proactive so we don't have to be reactive later. And the best that we can do to, have the best quality of life, given your circumstances.
Sure.
Where you are. So that's really what I do. And I develop oftentimes a relationship, and I may have a client for years working with a family.
Yeah.
And at times you're very involved because there's a lot going on. And then things are set, things are going okay and stable. And then something changes as it always does in life. And then it's great because I have a relationship with them and they know they have a trusted resource. And I can jump back in and help them. So
that's really cool, and I appreciate you taking the time to help me understand more of what care managers or care professionals do. I know you're in Ohio, and I believe they started easing up the restrictions and things like that, more so than down here in Florida, especially in Broward, where we just started being able to go outside. How is it? I mean, are you able to go now? and see your people that are in assisted livings, or are you not allowed in? How is it? How is the easing helping you guys, or are you still having hurdles and barriers?
Oh, there's definitely hurdles and barriers. And, I think we have, as I think it was the governor, I don't want to quote that, but, this is not a marathon. I mean, this is going to take time. We've got to work through things as we're going along. So no, the facilities, and, we have 900 nursing homes in Ohio.
Wow.
And let's see, 750 assisted livings. So they're all closed currently. And in those nursing homes, that makes up about 75,000 individuals. So you think about that, wow, that are all isolated and have been isolated since, early mid-March.
Yeah, about 10 weeks now almost.
Yes, yes. So, it's very difficult, as you've been experiencing and chatting with so many different people, and we're really having to think outside of the box, to do our best to engage folks.
Yeah.
But inside some of the facilities, they're starting to change their inner workings. So it's still not people from the outside, but they're starting to do things like you can go back to the dining room in shifts, with social distancing, which is, great because, and these are in facilities where they have no cases so
Right.
far, and and if there is a case, of course, they have to report it. And
Right.
now, Ohio is sort of set up to send this, what are they calling it? This infection control strike team that's supposed to come to any facility that has a case, and they're going to help the facility test in that facility, and do, cleaning and all these different things if there is a case.
Yeah. You know, it, it's just crazy. I don't even know when we're going to be able to go into facilities again, the short term, the long term. But I do know with the opening for business, not just on the professional side, but on the personal side, I think I was reading someplace in I don't know what state it was, but since maybe in Texas, but since they opened, they've had an increase of cases of COVID-19. So I don't even know if there's an end to this.
Yeah, there's just a whirlwind of information out there, right? And this is such a new to all of us. And as we're, they're feverishly trying to figure out vaccines or medication regimes, or, how to do the testing. And it's kind of, it's overwhelming. And we do know that the more tests they do, the numbers are going to increase, right? We
Right.
do know that and then there's this whole hidden idea that a lot of people may have had it for quite some time and
Never knew.
never knew. Right. So, the numbers, it's very difficult to make sure we're making sense of all of them.
Right. So let me ask you now, how are you keeping sane? I mean, what are you doing to, are you getting out? Are you staying in? Are you ready to go out? How is Jennifer Beach keeping sane today?
Well, I mean, professionally, I still have been, engaged with a couple of families. And again, that's all virtual because I had someone, who moved. We had to get hospice involved. It was, things were changing, not because of the virus, just because of their disease process. So I was, able to it's a family that's very dear and I've been working with. So we even did that. I had somebody else who now had a stroke and is in the hospital. So it's doing advocacy, through through this virtual world, which is a new learning curve. I have a couple of clients in which I go to their window so I can physically see them. It's just, I can't tell you the importance of, really being on top of and seeing. I mean, I can see changes through the window, but I
Right.
can make sure that I'm communicating to nursing to come see. So, I am keeping relatively busy. And helping, educate families, people thinking about should they take their loved one out of a facility, bring
Sounds
them
like a
home.
lot, you're focusing on that, on your work a lot because you're home and
Yes.
you've got tons of time. But are you going out? on a personal basis? Are you going to restaurants? Are you going to things like
So,
that?
yeah, no. So I'm out walking every day. I mean, that has to be, that's what keeps me sane is certainly. And that's why in Cleveland, we're waiting for the sunshine to come. We are waiting, believe me. I mean, we still have our heat on,
Really?
yes. Although we hear this weekend, it's supposed to be getting up into maybe 70. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And making the best of it. We started early on with this. I started a log with my family, and we had to say 3 things we were thankful for every day. And it's interesting how when you're put in a different position, things seem different.
Right.
You change your perspective. I learned how to play chess with my son, so we have chess tournaments frequently.
You winning?
Yeah, no,
That's okay.
not yet.
My wife Fabiana is just, we've gone for walks and things like that because, we've just been, we live near a golf course, and when it was closed, it was beautiful to walk. But I tell you, she's jonesing to go to the nail salon to get her nails done, but she's not going to go. We have no desire to really go anywhere right now still.
Yeah. And I think it's important, everybody has to make their decision that's best for them and you have to be common sense. If somebody does have a lower immunity, if they live with someone that does, I mean, you have to really, as we go through these changes and as things start to come back, I don't think it's going to be black and white for everybody. I think it's going to be different shades of gray all the time. And we're really going to have to think through that situation and decide, what's best for you.
I couldn't agree more. Jennifer, you're a wealth of information, and I appreciate that. But if anybody has a question on care managers in general or on care managers in your area, how can somebody get in touch with you?
Sure. So the first thing I would always say is Aging Life Care Association. It's a wealth of information, and you can understand more about what care managers do, professionals do. There's also a way to a tab on there, to put in your zip code, and you can be connected, to the care managers in your area. And I always encourage, people to do that because it is about a relationship, and it's not, it's just not a one size fits all. You have to connect with someone. You have to feel, comfortable with them. So I always encourage people to, when you're trying to look for someone, call some care managers, talk to them, ask them questions. There's great questions too on the websites to help guide people. And then also, locally, I am Advocate for Elders. Of course, I have a website, out there and all that.
What's that?
Advocate for Elders. That's the name of my business, my practice here in Northeast Ohio. And there's some great other care managers here, and we often collaborate.
What's your phone number?
It is 216-406-3139.
I want to make sure we got that in. That's all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Well, again, I truly appreciate you coming on. Again, a wealth of information. It's interesting to talk to somebody who is maybe 15, 16, 1,800 miles away, because what you experience and what we experience down here is so different.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it really was great to talk to. So I just want to say thanks again.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
All right. I will chat with you soon.
Okay. Take care.
Good.
Thank you.